My name is Tony Morrone. I'm a police officer with the City of Poughkeepsie Police Department. What I'm talking about is my own personal opinion. I can't represent the department or a union, but I'm more than happy to discuss the issues here in the state and in our country. With regard to the state of New York, I feel that it's just the taxes are way too high. The restrictions, it's probably the least free state in the nation. And with regard to our nation, you know, my understanding is that we weren't, you know, the design of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, we weren't supposed to have a huge central government. And all it does is it really hurts the middle class, the working class, people like you and I. We work, try to, you know, we strive to get ahead and have a savings and things to pass down to our kids, and the harder we work, the more they take. And I think that creates a lot of animosity, and because I feel like no matter how much I work, you know, I'm sure we're all in the same boat. You can't get ahead. And you know, I don't agree with a lot of things that our president does. I think his foreign policy stinks. I think, being that I work with a lot of police officers, and I have for the past, it's now 15 years, I think we're all on the same page. I think that most police officers have more of a conservative viewpoint, if you will. They have a true appreciation for the Constitution, for our military, for our vets. I would say the majority are patriotic Americans, just like you and I. First, let me say that I'm completely against registration. It's personal property. The government has no business knowing what it is that you own. You should be able to own whatever it is that you want, firearms and ammunition, and I don't have a problem with that. The gun laws are just ridiculous. My personal opinion is that you punish the person for the crime, not infringe upon their rights. I'll say to somebody who's maybe anti-gun or doesn't understand, say, hey, look, that's your right. Don't own a gun, but don't take my right away. And what I'd like people to understand is, as a police officer, I see a lot of bad things on a regular basis. And you may not like this answer, but I think there are certain people that maybe shouldn't possess firearms only because there are bad people. So there's got to be a balance. And you know, some people might not like what I'm going to say, but I think that there's something to be said for at least a background check. So yes, I do believe we all have the right to keep and bear arms, but you know, do you want somebody who's homicidal, suicidal, you know, somebody who's just a career criminal to easily have access to a firearm? I mean, you want to have something. You know, I'm not a firm believer in permits. New York State, the pistol permit system is absolutely ridiculous. Every county has different rules. Some counties are just a carry permit. Others have restrictions. New York City is its own animal. I never understood why I had to have a pistol permit, but I could walk into a store back in the day and buy a shotgun and a rifle and whatever else, but I had to go through all this rigmarole to purchase a handgun. I just never understood that. Even as a cop, it really doesn't make sense to me. What I never understood, and this is a point I love to make, is you can drive a car, which is a privilege, with a license from New York, and drive anywhere in this country legally. However, if you have a permit in the state of New York, it's only good in the state of New York. Now, there are other states like Utah and whatnot, Florida, that have reciprocity. New York, I don't understand it. Something bad happens in a mall, in a school, wherever it is, God forbid. By the time the cops get there, most of the time, and you've seen this time and time again, it's over. The quickest response, and not only that, a deterrent from something bad happening would be trained, armed individuals who are willing to defend the lives of, and you're saying, you know, the school in particular,
right,
willing to defend children, and Israel's been doing it forever. I mean, why are our children the last on the list? Why, I mean, you're gonna lock, they practice to lock themselves into classrooms? Who's gonna defend those? Are they gonna throw books at the bad guy? You know, an incident I was involved in, I did everything in my power in a very short period of time to save that man's life. He came at, well, I'm not gonna get into the details, but we were threatened with deadly force, and we had to use deadly force to stop the threat. So if we're afforded that tool, that option to protect ourselves, which is what we were doing, shouldn't everybody have that?
Yes.
I
That
think
was
it's
my
garbage.
next question.
It's garbage.
Yeah.
The message of necessity, it's BS, because it was done, I think, just for political gain. There was no thought process put into it. Law enforcement wasn't exempt the way they were supposed to be. You know, the federal judge up in Buffalo said 7. It's an arbitrary. Why 7? Now, which then tells me, well, aren't all numbers arbitrary? Why should there be a limit? Who's to say that you might not find yourself in a situation where you may need 30 rounds or 50 rounds, or, you know, it's not always one bad guy. You could have 3 or 4 people doing a home invasion. You should be able to protect your family at the very least. As a police officer, I don't see one good thing that's come out of the SAFE Act. We deal, in this city, we deal with a lot of violent crimes. There's a lot of gun crimes. And not once has the SAFE Act done anything to prevent any of these awful things from happening. And in fact, the way I see it, all it does is it attacks the good people of this country and state. You know, it just further goes after our rights. And what I've always said is that I wasn't always a cop, and I'm not always going to be a cop. So I look at it as, hey, I'm a citizen first, I'm an American first, and that's where I stand. If I find myself in a position where there's a SAFE Act violation, I'm telling you now, I'm going to refuse to enforce that. Now, they could order me, and I could refuse, and that goes into a whole nother thing. You know, disciplinary action and whatnot. And if I don't stand firm for what I believe is right, then who's going to? One example I made was this. You could have a career criminal, a recidivist who's out there, he's done armed robberies, and he's been in and out of prison, felon, you know, drug dealer, and you can catch him maybe with a stolen handgun, and maybe it's a stolen law enforcement gun or military, and it has like a 15-round magazine in it. I would not enforce the SAFE Act. There's plenty of other things that you could charge him with. Hey, here's an idea. How about you keep the guy in prison? Why is he out in the first place? Why are we dishing out sentences for some of these so-called violent crimes, these felonies, you know, 6 months in jail and 5 years probation? Why are we, you know, these people know it doesn't matter. They're going to come out and they're going to keep doing it over and over again. I think there's an inherent fear. I think that that many people, just like in any line of work, if you speak out against something that the powers that be are pushing, that they fear for their jobs because they, like myself and everyone else, have families and homes and mortgage payments and bills. People, police officers in particular, are afraid to speak out. But there comes a point where we have to speak out because we're the ones that the politicians are relying on to do the dirty work. And I'm not going to do the dirty work. I've had other police officers on my job, other jobs, say, hey, you know, good for you. You know, wow, I wish I could say what you say. And I said, well, you can. You know, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Worst case scenario, because all I'm doing is standing up for what's right for our country and the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to get fired. Well, you know, if I don't play ball the way they're expecting me to play and just go with the program just because something's a law and enforce it whether or not it's bad legislation, then I'm part of the problem. Then I don't want to be a cop. My hope is that it's going to maybe encourage or give a little push towards, you know, for other people who, you know, so that they could also, you know, find the strength to speak out and say, hey, look, this isn't right. I would love to hear police officers and see them band together and stand up and say, this is wrong, the way it was done was dirty, the way it was done was dirty, it was behind everyone's back, the cover of darkness. We woke up one morning and all of a sudden it's like, hey, guess what, these aren't going to be legal anymore. Hey, you know what, they forgot to exempt police officers from carrying guns on school property because it was done so hastily. They forgot to exempt us from having we for a short period of time, I think, weren't exempt from carrying more than 7 rounds. It just goes to show you how poorly it was done. There's a lot of work ahead of us. Don't give up. I think, our country is special because of people like us who truly believe in freedom, in smaller central government, having just enjoying life, liberty. I think we can get it back. I truly believe that there are people out there that are trying to put a wedge in between police and military and your average patriotic American who wants our country back. We're all on the same side. We need to pull together and just keep fighting the fight, and I think eventually we'll win it.
Thank you so much, Tony.
You're very welcome.